Hey everyone, it's Emma here, and oh my goodness, you are not going to believe what happened to me today. I am just bursting to tell you all about it. I mean, talk about a crazy morning. So, picture this. I'm usually pretty good about getting to work on time, but today was a different story. Everything that could go wrong, did go wrong. My alarm didn't go off, the coffee machine decided to take a vacation, and the traffic was absolutely insane. Long story short, I was late. And not just fashionably late, like, really late. I walked into the office feeling like all eyes were on me, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, my boss called me in. It wasn't a fun conversation, let me tell you. But honestly, the whole experience, as stressful as it was, kind of made me laugh afterwards. The universe was clearly not on my side this morning. I'm still a little flustered but also kind of enthusiastic about sharing this whole roller coaster of a morning with you. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. Remember, I release new videos daily focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Slight chuckle, a deep breath in. So, you know those days, those really specific kind of days? The ones where the sky just sighs? Not a dramatic downpour, not even a proper thunderstorm, just this constant, gentle, gray rain. It seeps into everything, you know? The air, the ground, your very bones. It was one of those days. I woke up, slowly. The kind of slow where your eyelids feel heavy, and the world outside is blurry and muted. The light filtering through my bedroom window was the color of, well, of dishwater, to be honest. Not inspiring at all. I remember pulling the covers tighter around me, thinking, is this really all there is to a Saturday? You know, that feeling? That existential dread that hits you sometimes on a rainy weekend? Anyway, I finally dragged myself out of bed. The apartment was cold, the kind of damp cold that clings to you. My slippers felt chilled. I padded over to the window and looked out. The street below was glistening, the trees dripping, the world washed clean in shades of gray and silver. It wasn't unpleasant, not exactly. Just subdued, like someone had turned the volume down on life. And then my stomach rumbled. Loudly. Suddenly, this vision popped into my head. A steaming bowl of hot soup. Rich, fragrant, packed with vegetables and goodness. The kind of soup that warms you from the inside out, that chases away the chill and the gray. It was a craving, a deep, primal need. I needed that soup. Now, I'm not exactly a culinary whiz. I can follow a recipe, sure, but I'm more of a throw things together and hope for the best kind of cook. But this soup felt important. I rummaged through the fridge. Half an onion, a few sad-looking carrots, some celery that was probably on its last legs, a couple of potatoes that had started to sprout. Not exactly promising, but I was determined. This soup was happening. I chopped the vegetables, a little clumsily, I'll admit. My knife skills are, let's just say they're not award-winning. I nicked my finger at one point, not badly, but enough to let out a little yelp. See? Already, this soup-making adventure was proving to be eventful. Then came the spices. This is where I really let my intuition take over. A generous pinch of cumin, a dash of smoked paprika, a sprinkle of turmeric for that warm, golden hue. Some dried oregano because, why not? And a bay leaf, because every good soup needs a bay leaf, right? Even my questionable soups. I filled a pot with water, added the vegetables, the spices, a handful of lentils for some heartiness, and then, inspiration struck. I remembered a little bag of dried porcini mushrooms tucked away in the back of the cupboard. Score. Those went in too, promising an earthy, deep flavor. The pot went onto the stove, the burner ignited with a satisfying whoosh. And then, I waited. The rain continued its gentle drumming against the window pane. I made myself a cup of tea, curled up on the sofa with a book, and just listened. The quiet bubbling of the soup, the soft patter of the rain, the rustle of the pages. It was peaceful, almost meditative. After about an hour, the aroma started to fill the apartment. Oh, that smell. Earthy, savory, with a hint of sweetness from the carrots. It was intoxicating. Suddenly, the gray day didn't seem so gray anymore. The chill in the air felt less biting. The world, in short, felt a little bit brighter. I tasted the soup. Good, but something was missing. It needed a little oomph. What was it? Salt? Pepper? More spices? I pondered for a moment, then had another taste. Aha! Acid. It needed a squeeze of lemon. I rummaged through the fruit bowl and found a lone, slightly wrinkled lemon. Perfect. A generous squeeze of lemon juice into the pot, a quick stir, and perfection. The soup was exactly what I had craved. Rich, flavorful, comforting. A hug in a bowl. I ladled myself a generous serving, grabbed a crusty roll from the bread bin, and settled back on the sofa. The first spoonful, oh, that first spoonful. It was heaven. The warmth spread through me, chasing away the last vestiges of the morning's chill. The flavors danced on my tongue, complex and satisfying. It was, without a doubt, the best soup I had ever made. And you know what? It wasn't just the soup itself. It was the whole experience. The quiet solitude of the rainy day, the simple act of creating something with my own hands, the anticipation, the little mistakes, the final triumph. It was a reminder that even on the grayest of days, there can be moments of joy, of comfort, of simple, quiet satisfaction. So, the next time you find yourself stuck inside on a rainy day, feeling a little lost and a little bit blah, I highly recommend making soup. Don't worry about following a recipe exactly. Just throw some things together, listen to your intuition, and see what happens. You might surprise yourself. You might even discover that the simplest things, like a bowl of hot soup on a rainy day, can be the most satisfying. You know what I mean? It's more than just soup. It's a tiny act of self-care, a little bit of magic in an otherwise ordinary day. And honestly, sometimes, that's exactly what we need. Right? Okay. So, picture this. Me, in my tiny apartment kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, dusting everything in this golden glow. I'm surrounded by pots, pans, cheesecloth. It looked like a science experiment gone wrong, honestly. And all for what? Cheese. Homemade cheese. You see, I'd always been fascinated by the idea. The transformation. Milk, this everyday thing, turning into something so complex, so flavorful. Feta crumbling over a salad, creamy brie spreading on a cracker, a sharp cheddar melting into gooey perfection. It felt almost magical. So, I decided, I was going to be a magician. A cheese magician. I started, as any aspiring cheese magician would, with the internet. Blog posts, forums, YouTube videos, hours of research. Taking notes like I was cramming for a final exam. There were so many kinds of cheese. So many methods. Where do you even begin? It was overwhelming, a little intimidating, if I'm being honest. I almost gave up, right then and there. You know that feeling, right? Like you've bitten off more than you can chew? But then, I stumbled across this blog. This woman, a real homesteader type, with chickens and goats and everything, had this incredibly simple recipe for ricotta. Just milk, lemon juice, and salt. That's it. It looked doable. Maybe I could be a cheese magician, after all. So, I marched myself to the grocery store. I remember feeling this weird sense of purpose, like I was on a mission. I bought a gallon of whole milk, the good stuff, feeling very official. Back home, the real adventure began. I followed the recipe meticulously. Heat the milk slowly, stir gently, add the lemon juice drop by drop. I was whispering encouragements to the pot like it was a nervous child. Come on, little milk, you can do it. I'm telling you, I was invested. And then, it happened. The milk started to separate. Curds and whey, just like Little Miss Muffet. Except, instead of running away, I was practically jumping up and down with excitement. It was working. Actual magic was happening in my little kitchen. I carefully poured the mixture through the cheesecloth, the warm whey dripping into the bowl below. The curds, soft and white, nestled in the cloth like a precious little cloud. I tied it up, hung it over the sink to drain, and then I waited. Now, this is the part they don't tell you about in the blog posts. The waiting. It's agonizing. Every 5 minutes, I'd peek at the dripping cheesecloth, poking the curds with my finger, trying to gauge their progress. Were they firm enough? Too firm? What if I messed it up? The self-doubt crept in, you know? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the ricotta was ready. I unwrapped the cheesecloth, and there it was. My cheese. My very own homemade ricotta, looking all soft and creamy and, well, a little lumpy. But it tasted divine. Fresh, milky, with a hint of tang from the lemon. I spread it on some toasted bread, sprinkled it with a little salt and pepper, and took a bite. It was heavenly. All that anticipation, all that effort, it was all worth it for that one perfect bite. Of course, the first attempt wasn't perfect. It was a little too wet, a little lumpy, as I said. But it was mine. And that made all the difference. I was hooked. After that, I couldn't stop. I moved on to mozzarella, stretching and kneading the curds in a hot water bath, feeling like a real Italian nonna. It was messy, it was sticky, my kitchen was a disaster zone, but the satisfaction of pulling that first stringy piece of mozzarella, unforgettable. Then came the harder cheeses. Cheddar, Gouda, even a brave attempt at a blue cheese. That one didn't quite go as planned. Let's just say my apartment smelled like a particularly pungent sock drawer for a few weeks. There were failures, of course. Times when the milk refused to curdle. Times when the cheese molded, yuck. Times when I just wanted to throw in the towel and buy a block of cheddar from the store. But each success, no matter how small, fueled my cheesy ambition. I learned about rennet, about aging, about the delicate balance of bacteria and temperature that transforms simple milk into something so complex and flavorful. I started to understand the science behind the magic, and it made the process even more fascinating. I started experimenting with flavors, too. Adding herbs, spices, even chili flakes to my cheeses. I gave away little jars of my homemade creations to friends and family, beaming with pride when they'd compliment my cheese magic. It wasn't just about the cheese anymore, you see? It was about the process, the learning, the creating. It was about that feeling of accomplishment, of turning something ordinary into something extraordinary. And you know what the funniest thing is? I don't even eat that much cheese anymore. It's not about the eating, really. It's about the journey. It's about the quiet satisfaction of watching the curds separate, the anticipation of unwrapping the aged cheese, the joy of sharing something you created with the people you love. So, there you have it. My cheese-making saga. It's been a messy, sometimes frustrating, but ultimately rewarding experience. And who knows, maybe one day, you'll be enjoying a piece of my award-winning cheddar. Just kidding, mostly. But hey, a cheese magician can dream, right? Learning a new language, especially English, can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But guess what? Dream big, start small, but begin today. Think of it like this. Every single word you learn, every short phrase you practice, is a step forward. It's all about building those small wins into something amazing. And you absolutely can do this. Believe me, the journey is just as rewarding as reaching the summit. You will not believe how much you can achieve just by starting. One fun and easy way to practice speaking is by commenting on videos. I do this all the time. I might be cooking dinner, and a video pops up with a delicious recipe. Instead of just watching, I try to describe what they are doing in English out loud. Or maybe I am out for a walk and watching a travel vlog. Commenting on the scenery or what is happening makes the experience even more enjoyable. It's like having a conversation with the video. And you know what? Making small talk at gatherings can be a real challenge sometimes. I totally get it. It is like your mind goes blank just when you want to say something. You understand everything perfectly, but then it is your turn to speak, and, poof. It can be a little nerve-wracking. But remember, everyone feels that way sometimes. Even native speakers. It's perfectly normal. Honestly, it felt like magic the first time I managed to hold a short conversation at a party. Speaking of conversations, do you prefer reading aloud or casual conversations? I remember when I was learning, I loved reading passages from my favorite books aloud. It really helped me with pronunciation. But I also know many people find casual chats more helpful. What feels most natural for you? Share your thoughts in the comments. I am excited to hear from you. Okay, so, you won't believe what I got up to last weekend. Remember that old radio? The one I inherited from my grandpa? Yeah, that beautiful, hulking thing. It's been sitting in my attic, gathering dust bunnies the size of hamsters, ever since I moved in. I'd always meant to get around to it, you know? Like, really meant to. But life, right? It has a way of just happening. Anyway, last Saturday, I woke up, sun streaming through the window, birds chirping, the whole shebang. And I thought, today's the day. Today, I conquer the radio. It felt like a quest, a mission. Like Frodo setting off for Mordor, but with less perilous terrain and more cobwebs. So, I hauled that beast down from the attic. It's heavy, I'm telling you. My arms were screaming. It's a classic, though, A genuine Marconi from, I think, the 1940s. All dark, polished wood, with these gorgeous brass knobs and a speaker grill that looks like woven gold. It smelled old. Not in a bad way, though. More like that dusty, comforting scent of history, you know? Like flipping through the pages of a really old book. I laid out some newspapers in the living room. I didn't want to get dust everywhere. And then I just stared at it. This radio. This connection to my grandpa. He used to sit by it every evening, listening to the news and old-timey music. I can almost picture him there, pipe in hand, eyes closed. It felt important. More than just fixing a broken gadget. It felt like bringing a piece of him back to life. Now, I'm no electrical engineer. My knowledge of radio repair is pretty much limited to changing batteries in my kitchen clock. But I figured, how hard could it be? Famous last words, right? I started by gingerly wiping it down. Years of accumulated grime came off on the cloth. It was satisfying, actually, seeing the wood gleam beneath. Then, I opened the back panel. Oh boy. It was a jungle of wires, tubes, and capacitors. It looked like someone had thrown spaghetti at a circuit board and hoped for the best. I felt a little wave of panic. What had I gotten myself into? I grabbed my phone, my trusty companion in all DIY disasters, and started searching online. How to fix a vintage Marconi radio. A million results popped up. Forums, videos, blog posts. I fell down a rabbit hole of vacuum tube amplifiers, if transformers, and something called bias voltage. My head was spinning. But then, I stumbled upon this amazing blog. A guy, clearly a vintage radio enthusiast, had meticulously documented his restoration of the exact same model. It was like finding a treasure map. He even had pictures. Detailed, step-by-step pictures. I felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could actually pull this off. So, armed with my newfound knowledge and a set of tiny screwdrivers I borrowed from my neighbor, who gave me this look, you know, the one that says, "You're going to break it," I got to work. First, I had to identify the problem. The radio wasn't completely dead. When I plugged it in, the tubes glowed a warm orange, but there was no sound. Just a faint hum. According to the blog, this usually meant a problem with the speaker or the output transformer. Now, remember, I'm a complete novice. I mean, I can barely wire a plug. So, following the blog's instructions, I carefully detached the speaker. It was connected by these thin, delicate wires that looked like they might crumble at the slightest touch. My hands were shaking. I felt like a surgeon performing a delicate operation. Once the speaker was out, I tested it with a multimeter, another borrowed item from my helpful, albeit skeptical, neighbor. And nothing. Dead as a doornail. Aha! The culprit. So, off I went to an electronics store. One of those old-school places that still smells of solder and magic, and, with the help of a very kind, very patient shop owner, found a replacement speaker that would work. Back home, I carefully reconnected the new speaker. My heart was pounding. I plugged the radio in, took a deep breath, and nothing. Silence. Utter, crushing silence. Oh no, had I broken it? Had I made it worse? I felt a wave of disappointment, mixed with a healthy dose of self-recrimination. I sat there for a minute, staring at the radio, feeling utterly defeated. Then, I remembered something from the blog. A tiny reset button hidden on the underside. Could it be? I flipped the radio over, located the button. It was almost invisible, and pressed it. And a crackle. Then a hiss. Then music. Faint, staticky, but definitely music. I practically jumped for joy. I'd done it. I'd actually fixed it. I spent the next hour tweaking the knobs, cleaning the contacts, and marveling at the rich, warm sound that filled my living room. It wasn't perfect, there was still a bit of static, but it was working. And it sounded amazing. So much better than any modern digital radio. Listening to those old tunes, the kind my grandpa used to love, it felt like he was right there with me. It was more than just fixing a radio. It was about connecting with the past, with my family history, with a part of myself I hadn't realized I was missing. You know what I mean? It was magical. So, yeah, that was my weekend. It wasn't exactly glamorous. It involved a lot of dust, a fair bit of confusion, and a near meltdown when I thought I'd ruined everything. But in the end, it was totally worth it. It's funny, isn't it? How something as simple as fixing an old radio can bring you so much joy. And hey, now I have a cool story to tell, right? So, what do you think? Fancy a cup of tea and some vintage radio tunes? Slight chuckle, a sigh. Oh, rice. Seems so simple, right? Just water and those little pearly grains. But let me tell you, my friend, my journey to perfect rice, it was a saga. A real, honest to goodness, pot-clattering, rice-flinging saga. Pull up a chair, grab a cuppa. This is gonna take a while. See, I grew up in a house where rice was a staple. Breakfast, lunch, dinner rice was there, a silent, steadfast companion. My mom, bless her heart, could whip up a pot of perfectly fluffy, glistening rice without even looking. It was magic, pure kitchen magic. And I, naturally, assumed it was easy. Inherited culinary genius and all that, you know? Ha! The universe had other plans. My first solo attempt at cooking rice, well, let's just say it wasn't featured in any culinary magazines. I was probably 18, fresh out of high school, brimming with unwarranted confidence. I figured, how hard could it be? I'd seen my mom do it 1,000 times. 1 part rice, 2 parts water, a pinch of salt, boil, simmer, done. Piece of cake. Except, it wasn't. I remember distinctly, the little aluminum pot. Hand-me-down. Of course. The tap water gushing in. Probably too much. In hindsight, the rice. Carelessly poured from the bag. No rinsing. Who has time for that? I set it on the stove, cranked up the heat, and promptly forgot about it. Engrossed in some teen drama on TV, I was blissfully unaware of the culinary catastrophe brewing in my kitchen. Then, the smell. Not the pleasant, slightly sweet aroma of perfectly cooked rice. Oh no. This was burnt, acrid. Panic seized me. I flew to the kitchen, flinging the pot lid open to reveal a cemented mass of charred rice clinging desperately to the bottom of the pot. It looked traumatic, frankly. The kitchen was filled with this smoky haze. The fire alarm was threatening to go off, and I just stood there, defeated. My first rice cooking experience was a spectacular, smoldering failure. My mom, bless her infinite patience, walked in, surveyed the damage with a raised eyebrow, and just sighed. That sigh, my friend, contained generations of culinary wisdom, tinged with a hint of, "I told you so." She didn't say much, just quietly grabbed a spatula, chipped away at the rice concrete, and showed me, step by step, the way it should be done. Rinsing the rice, apparently, important, the precise water ratio, the gentle simmer, the listening. Yes, listening. To the subtle changes in the pot's melody as the water evaporated. But did I learn? Not quite. There were more rice-related mishaps. The mushy phase, the crunchy phase, the, "what is this weird texture," phase. It was a culinary roller coaster. Sometimes, the rice was edible, mostly it wasn't. My roommates, bless their infinite patience, politely choked down my culinary experiments, offering encouraging words like, "it has potential," and, "well, at least it's not burnt this time." The breakthrough, the epiphany, the moment of rice cooking nirvana, it came unexpectedly. I was at my friend Sarah's house, and her grandmother, a tiny, fierce woman with hands that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe, was making dinner. And, of course, rice was on the menu. I watched her, mesmerized. No measuring cups, no fancy timers, just her intuition, honed over decades of kitchen alchemy. She rinsed the rice, felt the grains between her fingers, added water, not measuring, just knowing, and placed the pot on the stove. She hummed a little tune while it simmered, occasionally lifting the lid for the briefest of glances, a knowing smile playing on her lips. And then, like magic, the perfect rice. Fluffy, fragrant, each grain separate and distinct. It was a revelation. "It's all about the feel," she said, her eyes twinkling. "You have to feel the rice, the water, the heat. It's a conversation, not a recipe." And that, my friend, that was the key. It wasn't about rigid measurements or precise timings. It was about paying attention. About developing a relationship with the rice, understanding its nuances, its whispers, its sighs. It was about listening to the pot, to the subtle changes in the bubbling, the quiet hissing, the soft sigh as the water evaporated, leaving behind fluffy perfection. It took time, many more pots of questionable rice, but slowly, I started to get it. I started to feel it. The right amount of water, the perfect simmer, the moment when the grains transformed from hard little pebbles to soft, fluffy clouds. I started to anticipate the changes, to adjust the heat, to know, instinctively, when the rice was ready. And now? Now, I can make rice. Good rice. Rice that my mom would be proud of. Rice that my former roommates would actually enjoy eating. Rice that makes me feel a strange sense of accomplishment. A quiet pride in mastering something that once seemed so impossibly difficult. It's funny, isn't it? How something so seemingly simple can teach you so much. Patience, perseverance, the importance of listening, the magic of intuition. It's more than just cooking rice, you know? It's about connecting with something bigger than yourself, with the traditions, the rhythms, the quiet wisdom of the kitchen. It's about finding joy in the everyday, in the small victories, in the perfect pot of rice. So, yeah, my rice journey wasn't exactly smooth sailing. But hey, at least I have a good story to tell, right? Now, who wants seconds? Hey everyone, learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But trust me, it's totally doable, and honestly, it can be so much fun. Language is not just words. It's a world you unlock. Think about it. Every new word, every new phrase, opens a door to a new culture, a new way of thinking, a new connection with someone. It's like getting a key to a secret garden full of amazing possibilities. So keep your chin up. You've got this. And you know what? One simple way to really boost your English speaking is by joining a speaking group. Imagine this. You and a few other learners, maybe grabbing a coffee together or even just chatting online while you're cooking dinner, all practicing and supporting each other. It takes the pressure off and makes the whole process feel so much more natural. It's like having a friendly conversation, but with a purpose. You will not believe how quickly you'll start to feel more comfortable speaking. Do you also find yourself understanding what others say in English, but hesitate when it's your turn to speak? I know that feeling. Something as simple as talking with customer care can feel daunting sometimes. You hear them perfectly, you know what you want to say, but then, the nerves kick in. It happens to all of us, and it's totally normal. But remember, each little conversation is a step forward, a victory in itself. Honestly, it felt like magic when I first started feeling comfortable speaking English, and I know you can experience that too. Who motivates you the most for learning English? I was just thinking about my favorite English teacher from school the other day, and it made me realize how much a supportive person can make a difference. Share your inspiration in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Okay, so, you will not believe what I decided to do last weekend. Making ice cream. From scratch. Yes, you heard that right. I, the queen of microwave meals and takeout, decided to become a homemade ice cream artisan. Now, where did this sudden burst of domesticity come from? I blame Instagram. You know how it is, scrolling through endless reels of perfectly churned, aesthetically pleasing ice cream, and I thought, hey, I could do that. Famous last words, right? So, down the rabbit hole I went. Researching ice cream makers, recipes, the whole shebang. I finally settled on a cute little electric one, pastel blue, very Instagrammable itself, and a classic vanilla bean recipe. It seemed simple enough. Cream, milk, sugar, vanilla, a pinch of salt. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, or so I thought. First hurdle? Finding vanilla beans. My local supermarket, bless its heart, only stocked vanilla extract. Now, any self-respecting ice cream tutorial will tell you extract is not the same. So, off I went on a quest. 3 different stores later, I finally located these precious little pods of vanilla. Why goodness. They were surprisingly expensive. Like, I could have bought a small tub of fancy ice cream for the price of 2 beans. But, hey, commitment, right? I was in it. Now, back home, the kitchen transformed into my personal ice cream laboratory. I meticulously measured out the ingredients, feeling like a mad scientist concocting a delicious potion. The kitchen smelled heavenly, like warm vanilla custard. The cream, thick and luxurious, swirled into the milk, the sugar dissolved, and the tiny black specks of vanilla bean danced in the mixture. It looked perfect. I was already patting myself on the back, envisioning the creamy, dreamy ice cream that was soon to be mine. Guess what happened next? I forgot to chill the mixture. Rookie mistake. I know. The recipe clearly stated, chill for at least 4 hours, preferably overnight. But, in my excitement, I completely overlooked this crucial step. So, there I was, staring at my beautiful vanilla concoction, realizing I had to wait. Patience is not my strongest suit, let me tell you. 4 agonizingly long hours later, filled with impatient pacing and checking the fridge every 5 minutes, it was finally time. I poured the chilled custard into my cute little ice cream maker, switched it on, and nothing. It just sat there, whirring softly, but the mixture remained stubbornly liquid. Panic. Had I broken the machine? Was my ice cream dream doomed? I frantically reread the instructions, checked the plug, everything. Then, I realized another crucial step I'd missed. You have to freeze the bowl beforehand. Apparently, the bowl is what actually freezes the ice cream. Duh. So, another 4 hours in the freezer for the bowl. Can you sense my frustration? By this point, it was evening. My initial burst of enthusiasm had significantly dwindled. But, I was determined. I had come too far. So, I waited. I watched TV. I read a book. I even attempted some yoga to calm my ice cream-induced anxiety. You know what I mean? That kind of restless energy where you just have to be doing something? Finally, the bowl was frozen. Second attempt. I poured the custard in, switched the machine on, and, this time, it worked. The mixture slowly started to thicken, transforming from a liquid to a soft, creamy consistency. I peered through the transparent lid, watching the magical transformation, a renewed sense of hope bubbling within me. After about 20 minutes, the machine started to struggle. The ice cream had thickened considerably, and the motor was whirring loudly. It was done. So, I thought. It was soft serve consistency, delicious, but not quite scoopable. So, into the freezer it went for another couple of hours to harden. Now, let me tell you, those 2 hours felt longer than the previous 8 combined. I was practically glued to the freezer door, imagining the perfect scoops of vanilla bean ice cream waiting inside. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. I opened the freezer, pulled out the container, and, it was, hard. Like, rock hard. I could barely make a dent in it with my ice cream scoop. Another mistake. I'd left it in too long. Defeated, but not entirely broken, I let it sit on the counter for a bit to soften. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, it was scoopable. I served myself a generous portion, took a bite, and, oh my goodness. It was heavenly. All that effort, all that waiting, all those mistakes, it was worth it. The creamy texture, the rich vanilla flavor, the tiny specks of vanilla bean, pure bliss. It wasn't the perfectly Instagrammable ice cream I'd envisioned, but it was mine. I had made it, and it was delicious. I devoured the entire bowl, basking in the glory of my ice cream triumph. The kitchen was a mess, my patience had been tested, and I'd probably spent more time and money than if I'd just bought a tub from the store. But, you know what? There's something incredibly satisfying about creating something from scratch, even if it's as simple as ice cream. It's about the process, the learning, the little victories, and the sweet, sweet reward at the end. So, would I do it again? Absolutely. Maybe not next weekend, though. I think I need a break from ice cream making for a while. But, I've learned a few valuable lessons. Read the instructions carefully, patience is key, and homemade ice cream, even imperfect, is totally worth the effort. And, who knows, maybe one day I'll even master the art of the perfect Instagrammable scoop. But until then, I'll happily enjoy my slightly wonky, slightly melty, but oh so delicious homemade ice cream. Now, what kind of toppings do you think would go well with vanilla bean? Chocolate sauce? Sprinkles? Caramel? Oh, the possibilities. Maybe I should try making those from scratch too. Just kidding. Am I? Anyway, that's my ice cream saga. What culinary adventures have you been up to lately? Tell me everything. Okay, so, you are never going to believe what happened the day I went to the Taste of the City Food Festival. Seriously. I still dream about it, sometimes partly because of the food, mostly because of the, well, you'll see. It was a Saturday, shimmering hot, the kind of day where the air itself feels thick and syrupy. You know, the kind where you just know your makeup is melting off your face the second you step outside? Yeah, that kind of day. I'd been looking forward to this festival for weeks. Taste of the City is legendary, a sprawling celebration of every kind of food imaginable. Imagine rows and rows of booths, each one a tiny embassy of culinary delight, from gourmet grilled cheese to artisanal popsicles. I'm getting hungry just remembering it. I dragged my best friend, Sarah, along. She's not as enthusiastic about food as I am, let's just say. She's more of a salad and a sparkling water kind of gal, while I'm, well, more of a give me all the carbs and deep-fried everything kind of gal. But she's a good sport, and she knows how much I love this stuff. We got there early, which was key, because by midday the place was absolutely packed. The sheer energy of it all hit us like a wall the moment we stepped through the gates. Music was pumping, some local band playing upbeat, jazzy tunes. The air, thick with humidity, was also a delicious swirl of 1,000 different smells. Smoky barbecue, sweet funnel cakes, spicy curries. It was intoxicating. Seriously, I felt like I could get high just breathing. We started slow, strategically, like seasoned food festival veterans, even though I was anything but. First, a tiny cup of gazpacho, icy cold and bursting with fresh tomato and cucumber. Then, some perfectly crispy empanadas, the filling piping hot and savory. We sampled mini lobster rolls, each one a perfect bite of buttery heaven. We even tried some exotic stuff, crickets roasted with chili and lime. Don't look at me like that. They were surprisingly good, crunchy and a little spicy. Sarah, predictably, made a face and stuck to her lemonade. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. We were strolling along, happily stuffed, when I spotted it. A booth draped in vibrant purple fabric, with a sign that read, Madame Evangeline's Mystical Munchies. Intrigued, I dragged Sarah closer. The booth was manned, or womaned, I should say, by a woman who looked like she'd stepped straight out of a bohemian fairy tale. Flowing purple robes, long silver hair, and eyes that seemed to sparkle with, well, mysticism, I guess. She had this huge cauldron bubbling away, emitting a strange, sweet, almost earthy aroma. Care to try a taste of destiny, my dears? She asked, her voice a low, melodious hum. Sarah, naturally, was skeptical. Destiny tastes like what, exactly? She muttered. Madame Evangeline just smiled enigmatically. It tastes like what you need, she said, offering us each a small, ornate spoon. I, being the adventurous, and slightly gluttonous, went for it. The concoction was a strange, dark purple color, with little flecks of gold floating in it. I took a tentative sip. It was indescribable, sweet, yet spicy, earthy, yet with a hint of citrus. It was warm, comforting, and strangely familiar. It felt like a memory I couldn't quite place. Whoa, I breathed, that's something else. Sarah, after much persuasion, and a promise that I'd buy her a giant cotton candy afterward, finally agreed to try it. She took a tiny sip and her eyes widened. Okay, she admitted, that's actually really good. What is that? Madame Evangeline just smiled her mysterious smile. A secret recipe passed down through generations, she said, her eyes twinkling. It reveals what your heart truly desires. Now, I'm not usually one for mystical mumbo-jumbo, but something about this whole experience felt different. I felt lighter, somehow. Like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And then, it hit me. A sudden wave of clarity, like someone had flipped a switch in my brain. You know those moments where you realize something you've known deep down all along, but just haven't been able to articulate? It was like that. I realized I needed to quit my job. I know, right? Out of the blue, at a food festival, after a spoonful of mystical soup. But it felt right. I'd been unhappy at my job for months, stuck in a rut, feeling unfulfilled. But I'd been too scared to make a change, too comfortable in my misery. And then, this strange, magical soup. It just gave me the push I needed. I looked at Sarah, my eyes shining. I'm quitting my job, I announced. She almost choked on her cotton candy, the giant one I'd promised her, mind you. You're what? She exclaimed. I told her everything, the sudden realization, the feeling of certainty, the soup. She stared at me for a moment, then burst out laughing. Only you, she said, shaking her head. Only you would have a life-altering epiphany at a food festival, thanks to a mystical soup lady. But, you know what? She also supported me. She knew I'd been unhappy, and she was thrilled that I'd finally found the courage to make a change. The rest of the day was a blur of excitement and planning. We ate more food, of course, because, food festival, but the whole time, I was buzzing with this newfound sense of purpose. I even went back to Madame Evangeline's booth to thank her, but she was gone. Vanished. Poof. Like a culinary fairy godmother who'd sprinkled her magic and disappeared back into the ether. I never saw her again. And, honestly, a part of me wonders if I imagined the whole thing. The mystical soup, the sudden epiphany, the disappearing act. Maybe it was all just the heat and the sugar rush. But, here's the thing. I did quit my job. And it was the best decision I ever made. I found a new career that I love, one that challenges me and fulfills me in ways I never thought possible. And, every time I think about that day, that strange, magical day at the Taste of the City Food Festival, I can't help but smile. Because, even if it was all in my head, it led me to where I am today. And for that, I'm eternally grateful, even to a possibly imaginary mystical soup lady. So, yeah, that was my food festival adventure. Pretty crazy, right? You believe me, don't you? You have to. It really happened, or, at least, it felt like it did. And sometimes, isn't that enough? Anyway, enough about me. What about you? Ever had a weird, life-changing experience at a food festival? Or anywhere, really? Do tell. I'm all ears, or taste buds, as the case may be. Well, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching and for spending this time with me. It really means the world to have you here. I hope you found something useful or enjoyable in today's video. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe and share so you don't miss our new daily content focused on English speaking and listening. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, what's the first thing you'll do on your next holiday? It's always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and it's a fantastic way to practice expressing yourself in English. Sharing your dreams and plans in the comments also helps us all connect and learn from each other. See you tomorrow. And remember, take good care of yourselves and keep practicing. Every little bit helps.